Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rap Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm okay, I guess. Beautiful day outside. Got some serious nice weather. I mean, yeah, we're in a drought, but, you know, it's still nice outside. Plus, there was enough rain up north, you know, on the North Shore net, where the fires we had in Minnesota are somewhat contained and under control. I wish I could say it was true out where Dana is out in Reno. She's reporting the air really sucks. And I'm sure if you're watching the news, you see all about, you know, what's going on at Lake Tahoe and stuff like that. But I hope that gets under control soon.
One thing that I have noticed about the weather is here in Minnesota, September is the best month. And I you know how on Facebook they have your history.
Mm-hmm.
Every year, right after Labor Day, I noticed that the tree in my yard, like the day after Labor Day, just gives up, and the leaves start falling. So again, this year, right after Labor Day, the leaves were falling. It just gives up that weekend. It's like, I made it just
like a time clock.
So now there will be tons of leaves that I have to mow. I don't rake up my leaves, by the way, Joe.
We don't either. We just mulch them.
Yep. I mow them so that they're fertilizer for next year. But now Minnesota's September is usually the best month. The days get into the 70s, the nights get into the high 50s. Why can't it be this way all year? Why, Joe? Why?
Because we're not worthy.
Well, there is that. And let's see, it's a Sunday. We haven't recorded on a Sunday, but we may have to record on Sundays for a while, because boy, the group home is a twist of my arm to work every day I can, and every day I don't work at the group home, I'm either writing about wrestling or working late at the office job.
Yeah, there may be a change in the future. We'll have to talk about, but we don't want to start with freaking. We you know, that would just bring the show down.
Well, I don't know, because I'm seeing all these extra hours, and then I see artists like Larry Walls, the artist on Cherry Pop-Tart, is doing sketches at conventions for $50.
I know.
And a commission is less than 100. So I'm thinking a lot of the indie artists that I really like, I really need to be hitting them up for sketches through the mail and stuff. And I probably should have done it last year, but I just never thought of it. Because, you know, the people who work at Marvel and DC, when they go to a convention, they're usually, you know, pretty busy with doing sketches. And our friend Angel Medina has pretty much, that's all he does now.
Yeah.
He hasn't done a comic in years.
So if you like Angel Medina, give him a call for a sketch.
He does sketches and commissions and stuff, makes good money for it. A lot of people are like, why doesn't Adam Hughes do comics anymore? Well, when Steven Spielberg is commissioning you to do an Indiana Jones painting, you're probably getting paid a little more than you are drawing a comic that's going to sell 50,000 copies.
Yeah.
So, yep, a whole bunch of working hours. I am the working man. Football season started today. Are the Vikings already eliminated from the playoffs?
They'll find a way to snatch defeat out of victory. I was actually over briefly helping Lisa, the prize lady. As I mentioned, she's going to have a table at the upcoming Fall Con, which I'll talk about later. And she was watching football, and I was helping her price out some statues. Damn, there's price statues. And some of the other knickknacks that her and her late husband, our good friend,
knickknacks? How about paddywhacks? Any paddywhacks?
You'll have to go to the con and find out. But she's all geared up. She's ready to go. I've been working, of course, and I'll talk a little bit more about that When I do my obligatory FallCon blurb, because it's shaping up to be fun. But I did watch the Vikings lose, so.
Well, I warned you.
Well, we even talked about you for a little bit, because I said, Cory he watches football. I don't think he's got a team, but he just likes to watch the game. And I said, I get that way watching a game other than the Vikings. I just, I like to just watch. I enjoy the good plays. But when the Vikings watch, I feel my blood pressure going up. It's like, come on, guys. I'm not watching you to play. I'm watching you to win.
Well, and that's, you grew up here.
Yeah.
Now, I did not watch football as a kid or a teenager or in college. Now, when I first moved here, because I worked at Schindler's, they really wanted you to get into sports, and baseball put me to sleep. But I did start watching football, and I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that, I watched the Vikings because that was what they would show. But my son, huge Green Bay fan. Why? Because the fans wore cheese on their head. And then I had to start working more and more Sundays at the group homes until eventually it's like, I'm never going to have time. I'm just never going to have time. And I started watching pro wrestling instead because the time worked better. And then, like about 3 years ago, I had worked out a deal at the group home that I would be doing full-time overnights, sleeping overnights. And I would have my weekends completely off. So I would basically have two full-time jobs, but one of them I would sleep at. And I would have weekends, and it's like, okay, I'm going to get back into football because I remember enjoying the game, and there are a lot of people I know really into it. But because I didn't grow up with a favorite team, I really just don't have a favorite team. I like watching a good game. The Thursday night game between Dallas and the Tampa Bay, really good game, came down to the last 2 minutes. I was excited. I wasn't cheering for either one. I was just, okay, what is the strategy they're going to use? And I keep thinking, I'm watching football the same way I would play a war game from the 70s, one of those big Avalon Hill games. It's like, all right, what's the strategy they're using? And whenever anybody wants to talk to me about football, I say, okay, but I need to let you know I watch it differently from everybody else. I don't watch it when it's live because it's 3.5 hours if you watch it live. But if you watch it recorded on your TiVo and are able to skip the commercials, it's basically around an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, and you see, the problem is now, half of our listeners who don't like sports, because, stereotypical comic guys don't like sports, are already asleep right now. To us, we're talking, and when they're like sports. Oh, we're going to talk about comics. Sports.
Well, I think, a lot of people have different hobbies, and some of them intersect. I remember at Schindler's, we had a lot of the local wrestling guys who would come in and bought comics. And I think you had a few indie wrestlers who would come in your shop now and then. But I think people have a number of different hobbies. And when I look down my list of hobbies, they literally don't make sense. Because, I like going to the gym. I like lifting weights. I like crime fiction. I like adult coloring, comic books, football, pro wrestling. In what universe does that all mix together?
Just the way it is.
But I've been reading a lot of comics because, I'm at the group home, and the group home I'm at now, pretty much everybody is in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'm there till 10. And it's okay. I can watch local TV with tons of commercials, or I can read comics. Well, reading comics wins every time. So I have been reading all sorts of comics. Joe, have you been reading all sorts of comics?
Not really. No, I can definitely say no.
we were kind of supposed to do reviews. We've been talking about it for 3 weeks.
I know, but I was rather busy.
Oh, watching football?
No, actually, this is actually the first football game I watched while I was over helping Lisa price out stuff. I usually don't waste time watching football. I do like to watch like the I can't remember his name on ESPN. He could go all the way, where he busily, sums up the high points of the game. But I was busy because at the last minute, my wife and I decided to go up north. And this time, as I said, as I was heading up north, she promised I could actually visit the comic stores up there. And so what I did is I kind of put two things into one, and I ended up visiting almost all the comic stores up there. At the same time, I was dropping off flyers for FallCon. So we got up to Duluth, and I took a detour over to a place you and I have been to a lot of times, Global Newsstand. I think we went there once. It was over in Superior. Yeah, 1430 Tower Avenue.
That was the one where they had some new stuff, and they had magazines from like 50, 60 years ago just there on the stands.
Yep. Very friendly woman, took the flyers from me, said she'd post a few in the window. And then down the road, there was the, I think they call themselves Games Then and Now. Let's see, the address, it's at 1219 Tower, I think. And while they don't have a lot of comics anymore, they do have a lot of games, a couple toys. I didn't spend a lot of time there. I just hit and run, mainly because I wanted to get over to Duluth, because as you know, Duluth's got 3 shops that you and I have visited. I think we visited them all. Hang on, I'm trying to get my map. My Google map isn't cooperating. So let me zoom out and zoom in on Duluth. So we went across the bridge, and then we stopped, of course, downtown at, I tell you, this Google map is really dumb. It's like Comic Shops Duluth, and you're showing me everything but comic shops. I'm sorry, Dairy Queen is not a comic shop. Rogue Robot Games and Comics at 3 South 4th Avenue West in Stanley Center, downtown Duluth, is a comic shop. And unfortunately, I didn't drop off flyers there. You know why?
Why is that?
They're closed.
What?
Yeah, no, he's remodeling. So the door was open. I did stop in and introduce myself, and I said, no, I would stop and drop flyers, but they're not reopening till October 1st. And you could see they're hard at work, fresh paint, displays, and of course merchandise tantalizingly far away. But so we're going to have to take a revisit there sometime, Cory, and see just what happens once he's got everything remodeled. We went up the hill, of course, to Collector's Connection, which is 2202 Mountain Shadow Drive in Village Square. This is a shop I've been going to all sorts of incarnations. And Aaron wasn't there, the owner. I talked about visiting him last time we were up there. Dropped some flyers off. Now, I did pick up some comics, but I'm not really going to talk about them because, well, you'll see why in a minute. Because next door to that, of course, is one of my favorite places, Toy Galaxy. And I always love stopping in there because he's just, I mean, the vintage toys, the cereal boxes. He also has a ton of comics. He took some flyers. He's right next door, like I said, 2218 Mountain Shadow Drive in Duluth. Lots of fun. I did buy a Dr. Manhattan figure though from him. He was one of those from like a DC Direct where you can open up and see it, and I thought that was pretty good. I would have bought the Rorschach. I would have bought him, but he didn't have them. So, and of course, I leave these shops, and I've always wanted to buy more. And in the future, I'll talk about what I bought. We continued up the North Shore. I did take a quick stop at Secondhand Rose Antiques, which is 1016 Minnesota 61 in Silver Bay. Mark that town down, Cory, because it's going to have some relevance in a minute here. They always have a box of comics, some new stuff, but it's always fun to see what people pick through, some price down. Now, I mentioned Silver Bay. There is a connection here, Cory, because I know you talk about wanting to go up north to check out the fall colors. So you've got to write down this particular phrase: Superior National Forest Scenic Byway. When Chris and I got up north, we normally go to state parks. So we visit one of those side roads that are, built over the various rivers and stuff. But we just weren't feeling it. It was a long week. We had a tough week. We just weren't feeling it. So we drove the entire Superior National Forest Scenic Byway. Though there are some trees changing colors, but for the most part, it was just beautiful. It was green. It starts out in Silver Bay. So you can look this up online. Just put Superior National Forest Scenic Byway. When you drive up there, Cory, you can visit all the shops I just dropped. You can go into Two Harbors, eat at the Vanilla Bean. Oh, beautiful restaurant. And you can also visit the train store I was telling you about. It's finally open in Two Harbors. Let me get the information up here. Burlington Station. It's a candy store, gift store, and they will have a model train cycle, and they did have trains running up high. It's fun gifts. I picked up some fudge. I picked up some unique candies for some gifts. They're right as you leave Two Harbors at 320 7th Avenue. I will one more shout out. There was a shop that I have never stopped at before on the North Shore, and we decided to stop. It's called Silver Creek Company. It is at 1825 Minnesota 61, Two Harbors, just a little bit north of Petty's Pies. And we went in there and we dropped quite a bit of money, because what's cool about this place is that it's all local vendors and their various artworks and displays. I can't tell you the stuff we bought, because a lot of it's gifts and I have no idea if the people listening are going to get them. But just a couple of unique shops to visit. Again, if you do the Superior National Forest Scenic Byway, Cory, look up the map. It starts in Silver Bay and it goes all the way to Aurora. From there, you can either backtrack. You can take the highway south into Duluth if you want, or you can continue on to Virginia and catch 52 back home or whatever. There's a lot of different options. The only one we couldn't go up was Highway 2 because of the aforementioned forest fires. They did have the roads blocked off. And while if you have a cabin or home in the area that there's not an active burn, you can go in, they're still keeping everybody out. So check that out. You can also go to USDA Forest Service and look at it. But, this day and age of Google. So if you are going to go north, not only keep an eye on when the colors are changing, because with the drought going on, it's going to be a kittywampus color season. Like I said, some are changing, some are just dropping, but you'll have some fun up there. Like I said, we spent the weekend up there. A little bit of time in Duluth. I will give a shout out to OMC. Cory, you'd love this place. Oink Moo Cluck Steakhouse, 1909 West Superior Street. We found out about this place, my favorite show, The Jason Show. Went up there to visit, and we got there at 3 o'clock right when they opened. There were 20 people in line waiting. By the time we left at 4 o'clock, the place was packed. There were probably 50 people waiting out front. We posted online, and one of the locals said, "Oh, we love eating there. Always a line, always crowded." So it's great to see restaurants are starting to get a comeback after last year. So a lot of fun. Now, you would think that when I got back, I would have enough time to actually read comic books. But as I said, I was dropping off FalCon flyers. Cory, I hit almost every store in town and dropped off flyers. Okay, here's where I hit in one day. Now, I'm not going to talk again about what I bought because that would fill up the podcast. Because we do that, like on our geeking day when we what did you buy, what did you see, whatever. But I'm just going to talk about the places I hit. I mean, I started out early. Let's see, I'm upside down the list. Okay, I started at Dreamer's Vault in South St. Paul. Stop by, drop some flyers off. Again, I'm not going to talk addresses. I'm not going to talk these are places that we visited before. I just dropped off flyers. I talked to people there. From there, I went down to Hastings, stopped at one of the Level Up games down there, right on the main drag. I did try to stop at Tippy Collectibles, which is, again, just a toy shop, but they're not open all the time. And like I stopped down on a Tuesday and they just weren't available. From there, I went up to Minneapolis, Dreamer's Vault on Hiawatha Avenue in Minneapolis. That's like, I think we've passed by it so many times trying to go to Dreamhaven, you don't even see it unless you know it's there. But again, games, tons of comics. I talked with Charlie there, just a friendly guy. I told him, dude, we could just talk comics all day long. It's so refreshing to run into a guy who wants to talk comics. He told me the 5 in town, only 3 of them did comics. So I put on the list to hit the 3rd one. From there, I stopped up on Minnehaha Avenue, Heroic Goods and Games, finally open for in-store shopping. And I spent a few minutes there. I spent a lot there. The one thing I picked up were some really, really cherry copies. Cory, you remember the first comic that started me down this, my word of the day, Kitty Wampa's trail of comic collecting, selling, and podcasting.
Amazing Spider-Man 178.
Yeah, and he happened to have 177, 178, and 179, which I believe is most of the saga, maybe 176 had part to do with it, of that Return of the Third Green Goblin.
Yes.
So, but now I have reading copies, or do I? Because they're really nice. I don't know if I want to open them. But, I dropped a lot of money there. Talked with Paul for a bit. From there, I stopped by Hot Comics Richfield, which we've talked about a lot. After that, I went to the Level Up Games on LaSalle Avenue, also known as Mead Hall. I think we visited it one time. It's still on the lower level. Very neat ambiance, people playing games, picked up some comics there. From there, I went to the new Hot Comics location in Minneapolis, 4400 Osseo Road in Minneapolis. A little tough to get to because Osseo Road is under construction on the east side, but I was using Google Maps and was able to find it real easy. Some people are going to be a little off-put because they went from the nice, shiny, new shopping center to what I would call like an old-time store. It was probably a gas station at one time. But I love the ambiance. It reminds me of the old type comic stores you and I went to, Cory, as a kid. Stuff crammed everywhere, different rooms, high ceilings. They're making, what's the word? They were given chicken shit when they got booted out. They're making chicken salad out of it. It was a lot of fun. I talked to one of the owners there. I did not know
they got booted out.
I believe that's what the story was. I didn't really dwell on it. I think the owner either raised the rent so high that they couldn't afford it, and they just, what are they going to do? They just moved. I actually we got to go back there, Cory, because there's just, again, you're walking around, you're just finding things left and right. I picked up, of all things, they had Welcome Back Carter 1, 2, and 3 reader copies for like $2-3 a piece, and I picked them up. I've never read it, even though we've talked about, we had to have talking about that comic sometime along the road, but now I'm going to read it, see if it was any good. So I loved it. The owner mentioned that Kristen, the owner of Hot Comics New Hope, stopped in town a couple of weeks earlier, and just to see how things were going. I asked him the question I've been trying to find out: what got the owners to buy Hot Comics? That's the one piece of the Hot Comic puzzle I was telling I wasn't aware of. And he said, well, as you know, one of the owners was the nephew of Stan Lee and just wanted to get in comics. The one thing we didn't know is how he decided, because I guess the guy lives in New York. Why is St. Paul? But there's 3 owners. So I still don't know that part of the puzzle. The guy I talked to, one of the owners, he said he'll try to find out. And I said, well, I'll hit you up sometime at one of the cons. And I said, we're definitely going to be back. Because, Cory, on our Geeking Day, be it upcoming or Black Friday, I'm going to bring you up to this shop. And I'm also going to bring you down to a new shop in town. See the new shop in town, Rockhopper Comics and Games. This is at 8016 Medicine Lake Road in New Hope. And I met the owner, Mike, and he reminds me a lot of myself. A young guy, he worked at Hot Comics. He's now opening up his own store. Just starting out. Oh, you talk about distributor headaches. He's trying to set up with everybody. We talked a little bit about that. I tried not to be the wise, grizzled veteran and give him advice. I did tell him, get flyers to FallCon, because that'll be the best advertisement you'll get. You'll have a lot of dedicated comic fans in one spot. It's a freebie table. As he's kind of a one-man show, he can't set up a table, which is something I would have recommended. But just a nice shop, some unique things. I bought a couple things. The one thing I bought that's cool, you know the Mego dolls that we've seen at Target. He had one on Q, Star Trek Q. And I told him, I have yet to see that anywhere. I don't know if it was in previews, but it was so cool. I picked it up. I got a selfie with Rocky, the mascot of the store, and you'll meet him when we go up there. So if you get a chance, stop by Rockhopper Comics and Games. Again, a new guy. He's just getting ready to go. He's looking for subscribers. He's looking for gamers. He also was telling me he's got a wall. He's looking for professional artists that want to hang their art, kind of like an art gallery on the wall.
Oh, yeah.
And then do kind of a commission type thing. He's talked to people in the past, but everybody kind of balks when it comes time to, hey, I got the wall ready. I told him that's the difference between someone who just does art and enjoys it and someone who's a professional. Because a professional would have the art up there. They would have their little card on there. Like I said, when I went to visit Silver Creek Company up in just north of Two Harbors, the coolest thing I saw, and I didn't buy, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't, a print. A guy had done a print of the Split Rock Lighthouse. A gorgeous painting. It was one of 50. On the back, he signed the card. I think it was like number 3 of 50 or whatever. And I'm like, I told Chris, hey, this is cool. This is really cool. I should buy it. This is really cool. And she's like, go ahead, buy it if you want. I'm kind of, hey, Christmas gift, So again, if you're looking, just talk to Mike. Tell him you heard it on this here podcast. Because like I said, it definitely, I want to stop by again. And those are a couple of shops that we've never been to, Cory, that I think will be fun stop. The last stop of the day. Well, not the last stop. I did stop at the third Dreamers Vault in St. Louis Park, 3015 Utah Avenue South. Again, I didn't get a chance to really look through the comics. They have mostly new comics. They had games. When I handed the flyer to the person, she kind of looked at them like, huh? So hopefully they put them out. I don't know. I did take a quick detour over to the Comic College. Tim was there. I just like to see what they got. I was good. I didn't buy any omnibuses, Cory. I did go through their $3.
Did they have some on the 50%?
They did, but the one of note is the Dan Jurgens Thor, Mighty Thor that he did. Yeah, I know you did. That's why I didn't text you and send it to you. But I did hit the $3 box where he has a ton of those. What do you call the Marvel Tales books that we've talked about?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
and I picked up like Marvel Zombies, Ghost Rider, Doctor Strange, a couple Captain Universe. So So just some fun reading, you know, not expensive, just things to have fun with. Now you think that would be enough, but on Thursday I went down and I visited Issues Needed down in Apple Valley just to make sure they had comics, cards, and they did. Flyers, comics. Dude, their comics have exploded. We definitely got to hit them again because we're going to spend a couple hours digging through their stuff. And again, I just gave myself 15 minutes to visit all the stores. The last place I stopped was B Collectibles on I think it's 893 Randolph. It's a baseball card shop, but they have a lot of supplies, and it was kind of neat just talking to him. I actually ran into a friend from work who works the AM side of things, and I never see him. You think that would be enough? But today I ran up to Remix up in Forest Lake and talked to Tim again, dropped off some flyers. He's actually going to have a table there. So that's kind of cool. He was actually, yeah, he's looking forward to it. I'm excited because he said, he was kind of apologizing because he was like, as I was digging through his stuff, I really didn't buy the normal, you know, $100 worth of stuff. He says he's been holding on to stuff to bring it to the show. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I'm going to get to see you, but somehow I'm going to break away from the table and get over to see what you got. So, I mean, you're going to have our normal go-tos, Steve Brown from Cedar Cliff, who always brings tons of cool stuff to the show. Lisa's going to be set up with her stuff. Remix is setting up his table. Lord knows who else is going to be there. And all the cool stuff that I'm getting ready for the charity booth. So, yeah, that kept me kind of busy. And then, like I said, I helped out Lisa today, and then I rush home because we got to get this here podcast rolling. And so I was able to read a couple things. So I have two things I can legitly review. I actually thought about grabbing some stuff out of the archives, but, you know, I didn't have time to. I'm actually looking forward to tonight because I can sleep and rest. And I think between that and, like I said, if it was a comic store we didn't list, it's because we probably already hit them, because on Free Comic Book Day we dropped off a lot of flyers. And then, you know, I told Kelly there were a lot of places outside of the river, outside of town. Like I mailed flyers to Gamers Den in Cambridge, Little Professor Books in Owatonna, which we've never hit. I guess one of Eric, the guy who likes Punisher at the con, he lives down there. So that's a place we've got to hit sometime. The places we hit, Dork Den in Mankato, Jimmy Jams in Winona, Hidden Treasures up in Alexandria. That's the shop that little after Granite City had that fire down the block. Their shop burned down. They have since rebuilt and are ready to rock. Up in Park Rapids is a place called Final Frontier Toys, which I'm dying to get to because he sounds like he's a vintage toy shop. Paul Comics in Mankato, which we've been to. Book Review in Rochester. World of Games in Lakeville, which I've yet to visit. Lest you think we forget about our friends over in Wisconsin, there's River City Hobbies in La Crosse, which I don't think we never made it there. We're trying to get there. Not. But we ended up in spending a lot of time in nerding out and book review. I also sent flyers to in Menominee, of course, Heroes Welcome, our good buddy Brian and Kevin and B Collectibles, and we didn't make it to Claremont Comics in Eau Claire. So we got some geeking to do here, Cory.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm and you'd think I'm comicked out, but I'm telling you, if it wasn't like, you know, almost 6:41 on a Sunday afternoon, I'd be like, dude, let's get going. And by the time we talk next week, I'll be talking about the collector mark I visited, the guy who had the outdoor pavilion at Roseville, wealth.gives. That's the website. And then, of course, there's another Toy Geeking. And then after that, of course, is the, you'd think I'd be ready for it, but I dropped the flyer. The FallCon. Oh, my God. I'll explain to you why I'm in pain later when we get to geeky freaking. But FallCon, September 25th, Saturday, the one-day wonder. It's supersized. And I'm just looking, if you go to their website, MidwestComicBookFans.com. They got some guests up. All tables are sold out. The featured guest creators, Chris Anderson from Creepshow, Heavy Metal Magazine, Don Blivens from Image Comics, Andy Brace, who's done Punisher, Swamp Thing, Hulk, Daredevil, Drew Brockington, who does Catstronauts series, which I've got somewhere in my stuff. Xander Cannon, of course, finishing up Keiju Max. Keith Champagne, who has done stuff for DC Comics, JSA, Firestorm Superboy, Steve Fassner, Otis Frampton, Ale Garza, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. He's the guy who's done Gen 13, Zero, Eve, Batgirl, Jordan Gunderson, Kick Lily. I'm not even sure if I said that. He's a storyteller. He's done all sorts of stuff. Ryan Kincaid, Ryan Kelly, Rich Larson will be there, which is really cool. He's the guy I want to see if I can't get a Supergirl from. Rich Kolowski is there. Three Geeks, writing stuff for Marvel Comics.
Tons of Archie. He does tons and tons and tons of Archie.
Clara Meath, who has done Scout, Midnight Vista, Aftershock, Shadow Play. Doug Mankey's going to do a 2-hour signing from 1 to 3 p.m. So if you want to get there.
Wow.
Gordon Purcell will be there. Tom Nigan, another guy I'd love to get some artwork from. Brent Schoonover, Elliot Rowell, Jason Waltz, Mark Stegbar, a good buddy, Dave Wheeler. That's the featured ones. I don't even know who else is going to be there. Now, if that's not enough, the following week will be Twin Cities Con, which will be in October 2nd and 3rd, and you can buy tickets. They got another plethora of guests. They're more aiming towards, how would you say, Cory, more fandom wide? Because
they're more media guests.
Yeah, John Barrowman from Doctor Who. Catherine Tate from Doctor Who. Very cool. Will Freddy from Boy Meets World. I mentioned earlier about the Power Rangers. Justin St. Clair, the original Red Power Ranger, is going to be there. From The Boys, Anthony Starr. I'm telling you, Cory, I got to get down to this. There's some fun stuff. And that's just the some of the name guests. I mean, they got some voice guests like Wendy Hoops from Daria. Jimmy Palmiotti is going to be down there. Probably never heard of that guy. After that, we've got Nerding Out down in Rochester. This will be October 22nd, 24th. And they've got stuff for kids, adults. They're going to have toys, comics, video games. They'll have artists, attractions, arcade alley. I would love to get down there. I don't think I'm going to. But I'm going to try to get it off. Again, they're going to have Walter Jones, the Black Power Ranger. I'm telling you, if you're paying attention to Power Rangers, I guess the Pink Power Ranger was in town a while back. Scott Steiner will be there, Big Papa Pump. Tim Rose, who did Akbar, It's a Trap. Sandy Selner, who apparently did the voice of the, I can't remember the robot from Power Rangers. It's been a while. There'll be a lot of cosplayers like Carla Nicole. There's a lot of stuff coming up. And a lot of it's online. Just look it up. Fall Con, Extra Large, Twin Cities Con, Nerding Out Con. I'm going to be conned out.
I'm looking, and I do want to point something out. I think this is the first of the MCB whatever cons that has not had Dan Jurgens.
No, usually this time of year it's tough because he's such a big football fan. So even if we could get him, he would do just one. So he might have decided to opt out because he did the one-day ones.
Well, this is a one-day.
Yeah, but we're talking about the little tiny ones.
Yeah, the little ones.
Little tiny. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm thinking like what you're thinking. You know, who can I possibly get some decent art from? The best thing to do, call them ahead of time, get a hold of the website. Hey, I'm interested. Could you have this done? They're probably not. You could probably hit them up the day of, but you never know. And a 2-day show, it's nice because you know they can come back the next day. But so make your plans now. Oh, Jason Mewes is going to be there for at Nerding Out. That was the other big guy I'd love to meet him. So
you guys scared away Patrick Gleason?
Probably. Or he's busy.
All the shows.
He's busy. Again, these are just the beginning events. There may be other people added, but like I said, I'm going to be working pretty hard getting stuff ready for the con, and we'll talk about that, when we get to my favorite segment of the show. But since I only have 2 items to talk about, Cory, let's uncharacteristically start with you. And what do you have? If you're ready to segue, we can segue into some reviews.
The first comic I am reviewing is the first 2 issues of The Me You Love in the Dark.
Ooh.
By Scotty Young and George Corona. The first 2 issues are out, and I'm glad that I waited until the second issue was out, because the first issue was, it was good, but nothing happened. And the second issue is more of the setup. The story is that an artist who has lost her muse, she can't think of anything to paint, and she's past her deadlines. She's got to get art for a gallery show, or her and her agent both will lose their jobs doing art. So she's moved into this, what people say is a haunted house out in the middle of nowhere. Well, guess what? It's haunted. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because it is another comic by Scotty Young as a writer. I love Scotty Young's art, but as a writer, I really like his stuff. He takes his time, and the art by George Corona is beautiful. Very animation based. Lots of really good pages where nothing happens, but you're still looking at the page because he tells the story so well, showing the inner turmoil of this person, showing, the first issue is about somebody who can't think of anything to paint. And I can't think of anything that would be harder to portray in a visual medium than somebody who can't do anything. Just so much in the way of storytelling and character, and showing her moving around the house. And it's interesting in that how it's done. However, because it's focusing on little things like that, it is an incredibly fast read. And because it's a fast read, I remember I read the first issue in like 3 or 4 minutes. Then I went back to savor the art, and it took a little longer. But the first time I read a comic, I'm in it for the story, because I'm very story-based. And then if the art is good, I will go back to savor the art. But this one is very much a borrow at this point. Wait until the trade paperback is out, because like a lot of Scotty Young stuff, it takes its time to build. And it's going to be much more satisfying in big chunks than chunks of 24 pages. So thumbs up if you don't mind waiting a month between chapters. But for me, it's a borrow until the trade is done. Joe?
We're giving Image some love here, because I picked an Image graphic novel as well. One that I've talked about in the past, and I actually sat down and read. Inkblot. This is by Emma Kubert,
so much.
Rusty Glad. Oh, yeah, I'm just going to read the back of it. A powerful sorceress must attempt to correct her greatest mistake, the creation of a magical cat that can travel through time, space, and the 7 realms of reality. The cat threatens to unravel the fabric of the universe and doesn't care, just won't listen, because it's a cat. What a brilliant concept. This isn't like a anthropomorphic cat like Sabrina. This isn't a super wise cat. It's just a cat doing what cats do. And it just travels, and it's interwoven with the particular sorceress that we talked about. It talks about her family. I do say, though, there's a lot that's given to you in the first chapter or first issue, if you're reading it that way. The book, actually, that I'm doing, number 1, it collects issues 1 through 6. So keep that first issue nearby, because there's a couple of times I had to go back and, oh, such and such disappeared into this reality. Really? What's up with that? Oh, that's the one with just howling winds that people disappear in, and names get dropped. This sister, that sister. This isn't a kind family. It's a little dysfunctional, but they're magical and they're powerful and they, I don't know, they do what they want. And of course, there's the cat. So Inkblot is wonderful in a way that it's an all ages book. If you want to get your kid, first of all, if you got a cat, buy this. If your kid loves cats, buy this. If your kid wants to read comics, this is one to buy, Inkblot, because it's pretty much all ages, but it's not a kid's book. You know, and it's like Bone. Anybody can read it. They're going to have fun with it. I've read the first 6. I don't see anything that makes me go, oh, whoa, yeah, don't give this to your kid. So, and I believe I ordered book 2 with the last previews. So, and they're already up to issue 13. Book 2 is going to go 7 through 12. And it looks like they try to pump them out monthly, then they take a break, and then they continue. So not terribly expensive if you're a back issue guy. And they did do a second print. I don't know if it was the image first thing or a genuine second print. I was also going to mention about what Cory talked about. What was the name of that one, Cory? I don't even want to try to say it. The Me
You Love in the Dark.
That's actually, number 1's up to a 3rd print, which I don't always recall that happening with Image, but Image is ready to crank it out. If there's interest, they want to make sure they get it. I believe they're up to issue 3 because I was just checking the eBays. There's some variants that are out there for silly prices, but Inkblot and the, say it for me, Mr. Strode.
The Me You See in the Dark
are available. You shouldn't have to pay a lot of money to get them. I'm going to wait for the one Cory mentioned as a trade, because not because of what he mentioned, just because sometimes I just got to decide it's a trade. At least I think so. Maybe I did buy it and I wasn't thinking. Oh, well. Oh, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that in geeking. Anyways, that's it for my first one. Cory, what do you got up next?
The next book I want to review is not from Image. It is from ComicCraft, who does stuff on the Amazon Comixology. And I've read the first issue of a book called Strange Embrace by writer-artist David Hine, who I thought I knew that name, but looking at the art and reading the story, I don't. It's a horror comic. It starts with a kid making deliveries and to a mysterious house where the person wants the delivery every Friday, 5 o'clock exactly. You're to bring it in, you're to put it down, and you're to leave. You never see the inhabitant. You can't be late. You can't be early, etc., etc. But as he leaves, he runs into someone who says that he has the ability to read minds, who kind of entices him into his house that is filled with people who may or may not be ghosts, because when he first sees them, he puts his hand through them, and then they turn solid and get very mad at him for doing that. And it goes into the person who's enticed him into the house's life story. It's an odd book. It has a general creepy atmosphere, and the art is it reminds me a lot of Kevin O'Neill, who drew Nemesis the Warlock and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is how most people know him. That very angular style, not as weird and disturbing, but it teeters on that. It reminds me a little of Rich Sala's art when Rich Sala does horror comics over at Fantagraphics. Unlike The Me You Love in the Dark, this first issue is dense. There is a lot here. It's only 20 some pages, like a regular comic, but there's a lot being told. It's a writer-artist, and usually writer-artists tend to, tell their stuff more visually. The stuff is visual, but it's very, lots of text in this. I am intrigued. I want to read the rest of it. It's incredibly creepy, and David Hine throws out a lot of stuff here for you to digest. And one thing I've kind of noticed and I mentioned this when I was on the Worst Podcast Ever, there are a lot of smaller publishers who, when they get started, will put out horror books because horror seems to have this base of readers. You know, they every once in a while they'll outgrow that, but you can always count, if you put out a good horror book, you're going to get a certain level of sales. And it reminds me a lot of how movie people start studios. They're like, okay, horror, we can count on horror to make a certain amount of money. And then horror has what they call legs, in that, okay, horror's going to do okay in theaters, but then it will do okay on DVD, even though DVDs aren't selling real well. It will do okay on streaming. It will do okay on foreign sales, because there's this kind of a floor for horror. Even back in the 50s, if you read up on the story of Ed Wood, the way he would get financing for his movies is he would say, all right, we're going to do a horror movie because I could get those into the drive-ins and certain theaters and use the money from that to make other movies. That's still kind of the formula. And I think even with comics, it's still the formula. But this is a really creepy book. It's called Strange Embrace. It's available on Comixology. I don't know if it's going to see print, because a lot of the Comixology stuff doesn't see print until it's done, and then Dark Horse puts it out as a omnibus or trade. But really enjoyed it. I give it a buy. Joe, I hear you have a great big thick book.
I have a great big thick book. This one's called Pleasure Thresholds, Patricia Tallman's Babylon 5 memoir, the 2020 edition. If you're on Babylon 5, you'll understand the reference. One of the characters, Jakar, is looking for genetic material from a telepath who Patricia plays, and propositions Patricia and says, we can get some DNA material, or, he implies we can have sex. It all depends on what your pleasure threshold is. I can't even say it without blushing. I bought this book directly from her. She would happen to be online, and she's got a Facebook presence, Patricia Tallman, and she was doing a Facebook Live, and she mentioned her book. And you go over to b5events.com, which is where you can go. You can sign up for her Patreon, check out the charities she supports, or just buy the book direct. And at the time, she wasn't personalizing the books, but she did say she will autograph them. The pre-orders are over. Like I said, you can just buy them right away. If you see her at a con, she will definitely autograph them for you. She'll have them. Matter of fact, if you are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, forget it. She's there even as we speak. I'm just trying to see what else. I'm just looking at her website. Now, she was also a Night of the Living Dead. If you recall she was very young with short hair.
Which Night of the Living Dead?
I don't know. The 1990, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, she's not that old. You can sign up for her email. She has a unique collectible store, which if I had a free credit card would drive me up the wall, because she had, I guess the original crew were given these books called, I'm trying to see it. I shouldn't say that because it might be gone. Oh, I guess it's gone. Oh, here it is. Babylon 5 at 20 with 24 signatures, including the cast members who have passed away. $1,500. Considering if you're a signature guy and you already know the Babylon 5 actors who have passed away, that's the best you're ever going to get. If you want her book, it's there for $35. Now, I have a certain fascination with how things work behind the scenes, especially if it's something I will probably never get into. Acting is one. The most acting I did was up into college, high school plays, college plays, things like that. This book contains not only stuff of her original Pleasure Threshold book, but it's also updated to include Babylon 5 and some of the later work. She gives the the growing up stuff like most people do. But what was the most fascinating thing about this was not only her talking about auditioning. She puts on several scripts, and she puts on like the contract. Like she was only paid like $2,520 weekly salary for her being in Babylon 5. It went up if she goes beyond. She has what she called an aggregate guarantee for 7 days, 35. That's not a lot of money considering she's got to live off it. She was raising a son. She got to pay the agents, do headshots, whatever. Later on, she posts some of the scripts, which are interesting. And as you know, in Babylon 5, you had to be very particular about not changing any words because the way Straczynski wrote Babylon 5, something said innocently in an earlier episode may have great ramifications down the road. But she puts on what they call, this is the call sheet, which I found fascinating. I mean, if you're smart, you realize they don't film TV shows sequentially, at least not like Babylon 5. And so this is a date on Thursday. It goes through the call sheet. It gets the set, and then the scene, which refers to the script, and then the casts. Down below are all the casts. They're all numbered. If you're number 8, that means in this particular scene, interior holding cell, they need Patricia Tallman. In number 13, they need George Sims. He's playing a security guard. They're going to need stunts. They're going to need special effects. Located on stage A. That is, again, this is starting at 7:45 a.m. After that, in the blue hallway, someone tries to shoot Lita. Scenes 30, 31, 32, we're going to need the same 2 people. There's going to be some stunts. There's going to be some hand shots. In the docking bay, Lita comes off the ship unconscious. Scenes 15 through 18. We need actor 3, Jerry Doyle, who plays Garibaldi. Number 5, Richard Briggs, who plays Franklin. Number 8, which is Patricia. Number 12, which is somebody playing a med tech, Janny Newman. It says when they need to get and leave makeup by 9 a.m. There'll be a set call at 10 a.m. And all these scenes they want to get done, the stand-ins, the stages, the blocks. I mean, this is just fascinating stuff. And you're like, this doesn't look fun. This is a freaking job. And she puts in several call sheets, and I just found it utterly, utterly fantastic. There's also tales of like when, she has a special effect, she puts in these black contact lenses that like made her eyes bleed out, but, they use them again and again and again. She talks about why, and doesn't name the person, but apparently there was an executive that wanted to bed her and when couldn't, that's why she was not put on Babylon 5 initially. She shows up in the first film, disappears, and comes back later when the actress who plays the telepath wanted to get off the show. Again, the Straczynski didn't know that because he was over in France apparently doing the show. When he came back, contracts had been signed, Patricia was out. Didn't mean Patricia wasn't busy. Patricia did a lot of stuff. She was a stunt person in this Spy Who Shagged Me, the Austin Power. She was in Star Trek Generations. What was interesting about that? She was not only a character on the bridge when the Enterprise got shot down and destroyed, she also played the stunt person for one of the Klingon women on the Bird of Prey that shot the Enterprise. So she died on both ships. So just a fascinating thing. Lots more behind the scenes stuff with Babylon 5, the things she's doing. She talks about her charities that she's involved with. a lot of black and white pictures, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I love books like these. She's so open, she's so genuine, she's so honest. Plus, you can still get it. And if you're at all interested in like being an actor, I mean, I haven't been this fascinated since I read Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill, where he talks about, yeah, everybody thinks I'm rich because I'm anywhere, but I'm a working actor. You know, if there's something coming up, yeah, I'd like to go to a show, a Comic-Con or something, but I got to work. And she talks about that. And you go through it and you're going to go, oh my, I had no idea. You've been watching her in so many movies and you just don't realize it because she's a stunt person as well as an actress. And like most stunt people, she's paying the price and she's brutally honest about that. So I recommend, I don't know if you can find a copy of this anywhere. I mean, I'm going to go look on the eBays, but support the actress if you enjoy her work. You can go right to her website, B5 Events, Pleasure Thresholds, the autographed 2020 edition. So the one you buy will be autographed by her. And then, of course, if you want it personalized. And stay away from that $1,500 unique thing where everybody's signed, because I still got my eye on that. I might need I mean, I'm going to need a little bit of eBay sales. But you know me, I'm all about pushing eBay sales. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to push that in there, Cory. That's it for me. Cory, what else you got to wow us with reviews?
Well, actually, we've been going for over an hour.
Holy moly. I guess when you visit every shop in town, it does take a little time.
We desperately tried to keep this show under an hour and a half, and you never let me. So let's go ahead and talk about our sponsor. Our newest sponsor is Nordvpn. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. Nordvpn gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you can get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And all of the other podcasts that I've done, the Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause. Basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZCOMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcast that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at PWInsiderElite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio if you're a member at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks. And now we'll talk about what's going on the eBays, Joe.
Oh, I really haven't talked much about what's going on the eBays. Two things have happened. As I said, if you were looking for those high-priced books that Kelly had me sell, they're not on eBay anymore. There might be a couple of them on there. I think some of the Watchmen ones. But that's Beyond Watchmen, not original Watchmen, so don't start freaking out. But a lot of the other things have been selling. Telos #1. Telos was a comic from Image from 1999. Todd DeZango, and Mike Wieringo about an anthropomorphic frog soldiers with lisps. They're in pursuit of Kodge, a human tiger, and Buccaneer Garbs and his protege, Jarek, a human child. This was one of the con sketch covers that were hard to find. And the one I had, I believe, was autographed by, let's see, who the heck autographed this bad boy? Why, Todd and Mike themselves. Well, you had a chance. So that was one that sold. I sold a Sidekicks, the transfer student graphic novel. Sidekicks was from Fanboy Press. It's Schuster's Academy. They train superpower teens to be superheroes. Well, Sidekicks first. As a teenager must complete co-op program under the guidance of adult supervision. So this was a fun book. And just ones I had, I believe this one Dana gave me. Let's see, what else did I sell? I had a book I had found as, I believe in one of our geeking days, Real Fun of Driving, a giveaway comic from 1966 from the Chrysler Corporation, printed on newsprint. It was in pretty nice shape. And of course, you could see your Chrysler Corp dealer for styling, performance, and safety to buy such great cars as the Dodge Charger, the Plymouth Barracuda, the Chrysler 380, or the Imperial Crown Convertible, now at a car show near you. Yes, if you buy a car, do like you do with your comics, store it for 50 years. It'll probably become a collectible. I know you're worried about it, Cory. Remember how I accidentally bought the copy of Doctor Strange Epic Collection Volume 1?
Yes.
I sold it.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you for who bought it on the eBays. I appreciate it. Let's see, some other weird things. I had a promotional flyer for Infestation, which was a little tiny thing. That was the IDW crossover where I think it was zombies. Star Trek, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Ghostbusters, pretty much anybody who IDW was publishing at that time. And it's not a tremendously expensive flyer. It's just hard to find. Gru the Wanderer, #2 from Pacific Comics, way back from 1983. Not as expensive as you would think. Mine was in Fine Plus. Only went for about $7. So some of those Grus you can still find pretty cheap. Let's see. Classic Illustrated from, I believe that was First doing it. They did those special ones around the 90s. This one was the Fall of the House of Usher from some cat, Edgar Allan Poe. What a hack. Sold some variants, Red Sonja, Vampirella.
Hold on. I think, who drew that?
Russell Geldof, I think.
Comics.
Yeah,
that would have been Jay Geldof.
P. Craig Russell and Jay Geldof.
Yes.
Captain it.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So that was good reading.
P. Craig Russell wrote it. Jim Geldof drew it. Geldof drew some Grendel back in the day.
Let's see. I sold a copy of Dog Witch, which was published by Cirrus Comics, and then I believe later on Image. Driven over the edge of sanity by the violent death of her sister, a particularly nasty and public beheading she blames herself for. She was swinging a chainsaw after all, Ex-Rocker Violet Grimm made a pact with the mysterious Tretch in exchange for powerful dark magic. Now, along with Dolores, a disfigured living doll, and Ralph, the stuffed dog, she deals in a seemingly endless cast of supernatural foes. Just a wild book if you get a chance to pick it up. I had a run of Doctor Who the Forgotten. This was back when IDW had the license, and they basically, the 10th Doctor was stranded in a museum dedicated to him, and he had no TARDIS, and him and Martha made sense of their surrounding, and it took him through all the incarnations up to then. So it was a fun series. I'm not, it might be one of those going up, because when you lose the license to something and it's out of print, it starts going up. But you might be able to find the book, hardcover. It runs about $20-$30. Cory, did you ever read Hectic Planet?
Of course I did. That's Evan Dorkin.
Evan Dorkin, yep. Slave Labor, 1993 to 98. Collection of strange, humorous slice of life stories. This was one of those I was going to take out and just, because they're not, the one I had wasn't, they're not terribly expensive, but well, I'll talk about that in freaking why I'm getting rid of all these low price stuff. Let's see, Spider-Man. That's the meeting between Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Peter Parker. This was before Secret Wars, so there was some interdimensional mumbo jumbo going on. This was the Source Comics and Game variant cover, way back from 2012. Let's see, graphic novel, Seven Soldiers of Victory, Volume 1, because this was the big soft cover. Volume 2 goes for silly, silly money. Volume 1 I sold at cover price, so I hope somebody's happy with it. Superman Grounded hardcover, we talked about that in the past. I picked it up cheap at Remix, read it, sold it. We think we talked about Startling Stories Volume 1 at one time, didn't we, Cory? Does that ring a bell? Yeah, 1939 Pulp magazine I picked up in fair shape. So it's gone. I put it up at a decent price. Let's see what other goodies. Just a couple weird ones. Lady McCanna, Sangri from issue 2 variant cover. Scribbles #1, the sketchwork of Kelsley Shannon. H-Bomb #1 from Antarctic Press. It was an adult title. They said they were going to do more than one. They didn't. And I think that brings us up to date. If you're looking, even while I'm at the cons, I'm on 24/7 selling this stuff. So if you are at all interested in seeing anything like that one thing I talked about, the real heroes or the driving, a guy just sent me a note. Hey, would you take $12? I took $12. And I do want to say, let's see, I had some email here. I'm trying to find it here. Oh yeah. I want to say hello to Breckenridge. If he's listening, he bought the Before Watchmen Silk Spectre #1 Jim Lee variant cover. He's over in Germany. He sent me a note saying, hey, thank you for the Silk Spectre comic. Real happy with it and your service. I've added you to my podcast listening too. Because as Cory knows, on the back of my thank you note, I always give a little shout out to our podcast listeners. And as a new listener, or even as a previous one, if you see something you're interested in, and a little bit out your price range, even though I'm trying to raise $1,500 to get that Babylon 5 sign thing, drop me a note. Let me know you're listening to this here podcast. I'll tell you right now, Mike in Germany, aka Breckenridge, he got that Silk Spectre for half price. Why? He was watching it, and Kelly told me, drop the axe. Let's sell that sucker. So you could be lucky too. Crazy, Krayz. And as I do in my worst Duke Nukem ever, me, come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I play with this flashing light plastic ice cube.
Oh, I like flashing lights.
You put this in your drink and eventually it'll short out and kill you. Yo, it's Freaking and Geeking Joe. What are you freaking on?
Well, Cory, I haven't bid on my new work schedule. It's kind of a bittersweet one because I am going to be able to bid back into baggage. I don't know, did I ever mention on the podcast I actually took a demotion?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was actually worked out in my favor because, man, they were really screwing they're called leads, the guys who have 2 stripes. They're usually the ones that run the floor, and then a 3 striper's in charge of the floor. And then, of course, there's a manager usually above them. But, boy, they're really not giving those guys any love when it comes to scheduling. For me, I'm going to be able to get back into bags, which is nice because in the downtime in bags, I can sit down and read. So hopefully in future reviews, I'll have actually some things I've read because Lord knows I got things piled up around me. The bad thing is I will probably only have Wednesday, Thursday off. So Wednesday, I know is going to be, you're always doing AEW reviews.
AEW.
Oh, yes.
AEW.
So unfortunately, we're going to have to, the sweet spot will end up being Thursday because I'll be down to 2 days. I'm working like 1:30 to 10 p.m. and I won't have my 3 days off. So I'm kind of losing that. I'm hoping that when I start working 8-hour days again, because I've been working 10-hour days for 5 years. The last time I made a switch like that, it was like all of a sudden, oh, wow, 10-hour days go by fast. So I'm hoping for that. The bad news is it's just going to make this here podcast for Cory and I get together a little tougher. But that's 2 months from now. That's a freaking for a later date. Let's see. This might be a note from last week. Our interwebs is slowly dying. The modem we've had for 15 years is dead. It kind of spits out. I'm using my daughters to do this here podcast. The last thing I want is the middle of the email to suddenly, oh, we faded out and during a particularly good rant. And of course they can't come out till the 23rd. So next week we'll still have the crappy old internet. The following week, not only will I be giving you Tales of the Con, but I will also have brand new interwebs. So
you'll have crappy new internet.
Yeah, I hope not. Boy, I did one thing on the eBays. I'm not going to get in too big a rant since I got to rant on them last week, but I think it was last week, wasn't it? Anyways, I keep mentioning that the cheaper stuff on the eBays is disappearing, partially because postal rates have gone up again. I had a lot of things for $5 to $7, sometimes to 10, but the economics of it just made it so it wasn't. It costs like $4 or $5 to ship this thing, unless you're going to try to be a sneaky guy and I'm going to ship it media mail, which is a no. Media mail is for books and graphic novels, not for comic books, because comic books are considered periodicals. Cory
because they have advertising in them.
Yeah, Cory warned us about that months ago, and I haven't had any problems for the most part mailing things. I did have one chucklehead send back a package that had a pin in it, the "Oh Behave" pin, because they said, no, this has to go parcel post. No, it doesn't. It's first class, you Nimrod. Your own website said it's like 2 stamps to ship and whatever. So I repackaged it, told the guy, sorry, I resent it. It hasn't come back yet. Knock on padded sealing like I deserve. The bottom line is I took all these cheap books, and there was some nice stuff, low grade Marvels, DCs, the Carlton war books, horror books, some Archie, a lot of Archies, a lot of Richie Rich. It's just I can't afford to sell them on the eBays. So I donated them. I'm going to take a tax write-off. If there was something you had your eye on, you know how to get a hold of me because they're probably sitting in the box behind me. For our beloved listeners, I wouldn't mind doing it. But it's just, and again, it's not an eBay thing. It's more of a post office thing. They keep raising their rates trying to, pay off that $1 billion liability they have for all their retirees for 75 years in the future. Boy, who are the chuckleheads, Congress, that saddle them with that? If they didn't have to pay that ahead of time, they'd be making money hand over fist. Instead, it's just, somebody's trying to bankrupt the postal so they can just say, oh, well, you guys can't do anything anyways. We'll just give all that juicy package stuff to the FedEx and everybody else. So it does make a difference, and it also makes a difference when I buy things. Cory knows I love digging through cheap boxes. 90 times it's just so I can read it and I'll turn around and throw it on eBay. Well, now it's like, well, I don't know if I want to read it just to eBay it because I can't anymore. Of course, I could make some interesting packages with it. Well, last thing I'm freaking about, Cory, we almost didn't have a podcast today.
Oh, what happened?
I took a fall down the stairs, and for the life of me, I don't know what I tripped on. I fell. I tripped on something, and I had, my phone. I was balancing a glass of Mountain Dew. I twisted in ways that I haven't done since before my hips, and there are parts of my body right now that are like, yeah, you're going to be paying for this tomorrow. I didn't break any glass. I mean, when I landed, I thought I broke something. I thought I landed on glass. Fans fell on me. Boxes fell on me. Mountain Dew sprayed everywhere. But I survived. It was weird, but I was like, oh my God, it just hit me so fast. And even when I was over at Lisa's helping her price out stuff, I was like, oh yeah, there's a spot that I must have landed on and didn't realize as I bounced across the floor. I did discover I got mouse droppings all over the place. So apparently I got a mouse in the house.
The cat is not doing its job.
No, the cat ain't gonna do his job. He ain't got no teeth or claws. If anything, it'll probably run. Bubba, our cat, as I've mentioned before, is a rescue cat, and whoever had it before took all its teeth out, took all its claws out. My daughter buys special food for it, and we mix it up with chicken bouillard, whatever I can't say, you know what it is, base, and warm it up so he eats it. He's doing okay with it, but the one time, he's the great big cat hunter. I call them chinch bugs. They're about an inch long with long antenna, and they come into the house at random times, and they're harmless. And one was crawling across the floor, and the great cat hunter was on the prowl. He was going to get this thing, and the thing started crawling up the couch, and he pounced, and he put it in his mouth, and promptly spit it out like, and ran away. It's like, I'm sure the chinch was like, what in hell's bells was that? We picked it up, threw it outside. So, yeah, a mouse? No. We did catch one. We used an electronic trap where it goes in, zap, supposedly painless. I don't know. My wife's like, use glue traps. I don't like glue traps. I just, ugh. But anyway, so I'm gonna be dealing with that, and or maybe it was just one mouse. We just happened to catch it and look. I don't know. It's fall time. It's time of year where spiders and snakes and all sorts of things want to crawl inside and check out what's going on. I don't mind. Go ahead and read my comics. Just don't chew on them. Anyways, that's my freaking for the week. I think I've done enough pain. Cory, how about you? What you freaking on?
Let's see. The main thing I am freaking on was just announced today.
Oh.
And it ties into a larger freaking. WWE, about a month ago, announced that Vince McMahon and the people who do a lot of the booking and storytelling on Raw are taking over NXT. This is not good because while NXT is not as good as it was a year ago, because now that they're on the USA channel, Vince knows it exists and has been kind of not really booking it, but overseeing it. So more and more goofy stuff has been on there. More and more skits are on there rather than wrestling. Well, now it's being taken over by Vince and Bruce Pritchard and Johnny Ace, and they are talking about how they are not going to be hiring people off the indies anymore, which is why I liked NXT. It would get all these people off the indies who were actually wrestlers instead of, 7 foot tall guys who can't move. and they are taking it over. But they pulled up the NXT champion, so they had to quick have Samoa Joe win the championship. I like Samoa Joe. I think Samoa Joe's a fantastic talent. Was looking forward to seeing what he could do. Well, I'm not going to be able to see what he could do either because of his medical issues. He will not be able to perform, so they are going to give the title to somebody else. Samoa Joe is a guy I've liked since he was in Ring of Honor. I don't think he's ever really gotten a good run in WWE because he was already kind of beat up and injured by the time he came to WWE. And what it was, the way he came in, he was just doing indies. And Triple H brought him in because they were going to go on tour, and they thought, hey, we'll just have you show up at some of the house shows and stuff so that we can sell more tickets. And you can keep working your indies. Just make sure you're not doing anything that's going to show up on cable TV. And eventually they offered him a deal. And then he got pulled up to the main roster, and he did some stuff. The thing that really annoys me about all of this, when he was out injured, they had him do commentary, and he was fantastic at it, to the point where he did commentary on the latest WrestleMania. And then less than a month after WrestleMania, he was pulled off commentary and fired. Triple H came in and hired him back for NXT, and he was just going to be a character. He was going to kind of be the muscle for the commissioner, which is Steven Regal. But Vince pulled a bunch of guys up to the main roster, so it's like, crap, we don't have anybody who could be a legit champion. Let's put it on Samoa Joe. Well, Samoa Joe's injured. So not only is Samoa Joe not going to be able to get another championship run, but it sounds like NXT is about to become the same as Raw, and Raw is just fucking unwatchable. So, thank goodness that AEW added a second night of TV. Comic-wise, I did read the first issue of the Batman Fear State, which is their big crossover. And I liked it. Thought it was well done. James Tynion IV, who's writing it, this is going to be his last Batman story. So he's actually, this is going to tie up all of the plot threads that he's had. It's going to tie up some other Batman stories because they're planning on kind of, I don't want to call it a repurposing, but whoever's taking over Batman after him is going to want a clean slate. And then I saw how many issues tie into this. It's 40 plus comics for this crossover. Now let's just say that each one is $4 each. So 40 issues, $4 each. It's $160 to read this whole story. There is no story in comics worth $160. And they wonder why fans are looking at DC and going, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. $160. And who's the main bad guy of the story? The Scarecrow. You have to wonder if the people in charge over at DC have any clue what they're doing. They're like WWE right now. If WWE, if they didn't have their huge contract, they'd be getting their ass handed to them because they didn't sell out Madison Square Garden this week, whereas AEW sold out the Arthur Ashe Stadium and another 10,000 seat venue during the same week in New York. Whereas WWE, their big return to Madison Square Garden, they couldn't sell it out. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Something happened over the weekend that I wasn't aware of. I wish I would have been, although I was working, I probably couldn't have gone. They had what they call a comic book crawl in South Minneapolis. And what they did is a bunch of stores got together and advertised themselves. And you would go online, and it was just kind of like a mini free comic book day. It wasn't free comics, but you could go to a place. I think we've been to Wizard Whack Comics and Records before, haven't we?
Yeah.
36th Avenue South.
We went there first week.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the place where Nostalgia Zone. I can't think of the thrift store that had a bunch of comics. Time Bomb. I remember that because of the game, Time Bomb. And then around the corner is Wizard Wax. And I feel bad I didn't get there for the flyer. Guess where I'm going tomorrow. Wizard Wax, by the way, 3006 36th Avenue in Minneapolis. And then there was some dealers that had their, they must be just set up in garages and that. Heroic Games was set up. Dreamer's Vault in Minneapolis. Hot Comics and Collectibles in Richfield. So you could just spend the day going from dealer to a store to dealers and so on and so on. I thought, what a brilliant idea. What a brilliant promotion. And it was just a great idea. Various places to get deals. People have been posting online of all the cool stuff they ran across. And again, I was busy on that particular day, so I couldn't go. But and if we'd have known about it, we would have definitely blurbed it. So if whoever's listening, if you're part of this crawl and you're doing it again, drop Cory and I a quick note. We'll blurb the hell out of it. We love doing that. We may even do it, pending Cory's sleep schedule and my work schedule. So an actor that you're probably aware of, Michael Constantine, he played the Windex loving dad in My Big Fat Greek Wedding, passed away. Why in geeking? Well, he's 94 years old, but what's really cool was looking up his filmography and just seeing all the things he did, including an episode of Hogan's Heroes, season 1, episode 20, It Takes a Thief. Sometimes my wife and I, that's kind of our, depending on where we are. If we're in the living room, we'll watch MASH via Hulu. If we're in the bedroom, because we can't get Disney to work for some reason, we've been watching Hogan Heroes reruns, and he was in that episode. It was so much fun to see him, other than talking like the Greek guy. But then people started commenting, like he was the principal in room 222. He was in a few episodes of The Untouchable. He was in Mission Impossible, Voyage of the Damned. He was in Mama's Family, so newer stuff. Harper versus Harper. I'll be probably going like you, Cory, in Harper versus Harper. He was had a broken vacuum cleaner. Maybe giving you a run for your money. So it was wonderful to see not only the roles he played, but again, you heard me blab on and on about Patricia's book. Just to see a working actor. And again, my heart out to all the stunt people and people who are acting that are just trying to make a living at it, versus the rich people who, I'll take 40 million to appear for 5 minutes. Yeah. I was talking, one of the reasons, and I didn't realize this until now, I've been so busy. I got a box day on Friday.
Oh.
I had read last box day. I got 3 previews piled up that are obsolete because we've already talked about them. I did get one omnibus. I got the Peter David X Factor omnibus. So I'm real excited about that because I was off and on reading Peter David's stuff. Sorry, Peter, forgive me. I did buy your autobiography though. That was fun. So yeah, I and what I do is, like, when I get the boxes, I always pick out the books that either I'm dying for because it left on a cliffhanger or things that I remember. Then I pile up the mini series and I pile up the other series. Sometimes I just want to read it, 2 issues at a time, like Cory did, because sometimes I'll read one and go, meh, and never get back to it. And I also want to talk about it when we get to reviews. And I'm always, it's kind of like, what do I talk about it now and get you excited so you go out and buy it, or do I wait till it's out or wait for the book, whatever. You guys just don't understand the trauma Cory and I go through to put on this podcast. We're a national treasure, and we still don't have a Wikipedia page.
I blame all the listeners because we can't make our own Wikipedia page. You folks have to do it for us.
Folks, I hate to say it, but Festivus is coming up. Wouldn't it be nice not to have that as a complaint this year? Anyways, everything else I've talked about. I mean, I talked about going up north. I talked about going to Cory's favorite restaurant, OMC, Oink Moo Cluck. My recommendation for Fall Color Drive. And if you weren't listening to different comic shops to visit, well, I especially if you're in Minnesota, come on, visit. Not only do we got a bunch of cons coming up, we got tons of. I can't believe none of these comic shops went under during the pandemic, but we've got new ones sprouting up. So this is very exciting and very encouraging to hear in the comic world. And of course, I think the next time our great geeking will get together, you know, the way my schedule is and your schedule will probably be Black Friday. So we got that going for us.
I am all ready for Black Friday. Thanksgiving is actually kind of my favorite holiday at this point, because on Thanksgiving itself, I wake up early. I go out to Minnesota's largest candy store because it's the last weekend they're open. I get back. There's usually a Mystery Science Theater 3000 day-long marathon. I take the day and I cook stuff and I bake stuff, and you know, the house just smells like pumpkin pie all day with banana bread and pumpkin bread and all the other stuff. And then we run around and buy comics and are goofy nerds all day on Friday.
Yeah,
and
try to
take 2
get
days
a
to
podcast
recover.
out of it. Yeah. If we have, I don't know how the cop car is going to sound recording, assuming we don't have a plethora of people like we did when Free Comic Book Day. But you know, everybody's always invited to come. But you know, I'll drive the cop car. I didn't mention it in Freaking, but the oil pump went out on it, so it's in the shop. Well, it's hard to say if it went out or not. At least the
oil pump didn't go out and you kept driving it.
Well, that was the problem.
My mother did that once.
Well, it went out, but I had to drive home. And the weird thing about it is this is kind of a smart cop car. Most of the time you just get that stupid oil light that pops up. And I had just gotten an oil change, so I knew it wasn't that. And then, of course, I decided the only time it went on is when I was in neutral, you know, or just revved down at a light. And so when I get home, I Googled it, and it goes, yeah, it usually means your oil pump's going. You should probably stop driving it, have a tow, blah, 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 whatever. Fortunately, the place I took it to is called Firestone Viking down on Jackson Street in downtown St. Paul. My kids bring their cars there all the time. Nice people. What I didn't realize, Chris, my wife told me later, they know how to take care of cop cars because they would take care of St. Paul's police cars for a while when if the shop that you know, the in-house shop got overdone. So they're nonplussed about dealing with a cop car. It might be next week's Freaking though, because they're going to look at it. I dropped it off Saturday. They're going to look at it Monday, so I'm waiting for that phone call. Anyways, that's pretty much me for geeking. You know, other than, you know, death-defying falls, stupid work schedules, and bad interwebs, I'm doing okay. How about you, Cory? What you geeking on?
This week, my job has actually been kind of easy because I would spend 90 minutes answering the emails that our team gets, 2 hours working on reports, and then 4 hours every afternoon training new people. And I am not the main trainer. I am the person who comes in with stories about benefits. So, okay, we're talking about this benefit, and then they would turn it to me, and I would give some examples of the type of call you would get, how to handle, when to hand off, because we only have certain information because we help you sign up. But if you want detailed information, such as, well, what medications are considered in the formulary and what ones are, what is a formulary, stuff like that, helping people with that. And a lot of it, everybody was on Zoom. And I would say a good quarter of the people have cats. How do I know? Because cats don't care if you're working. They will jump up on the desk. They will
and scold you.
They will look into the camera. They will knock the keyboard off so that they have room to sit down. I got to see everybody's cats all week long.
Oh, that's Chris had that working at home too. Every so often, Bubba would pounce up on it and then jump up on the camera, and everybody, the meeting would all go, Oh, look at the kitty. Chris now does the meetings without the camera because she's trying to get busy. She's running the meeting. So
Yeah.
I still think it's cute.
I
Of course,
talked a
then
little.
I can't jump behind her in my Batman and Spider-Man underwear either. But maybe the cat's not the reason.
Joe, did I talk about the All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view on our last show?
You've been raving about wrestling the last couple weeks. I'm pretty sure you may have, but it just is good stuff.
Their last pay-per-view was phenomenal. It was CM Punk's first match in 7 years, him versus Darby Allin. Just one of the things, and I talk about it when I do the coverage over on pwinsiderelite.com. Darby Allin's one of these kids who he does the skateboards and he does this and he does that. And when he was in the ring with CM Punk, it's real clear that CM Punk was very much, slow down, kid. You're going to kill yourself. Which Darby Allin needs, because one of the jokes I've been making is, well, I hope everyone enjoys Darby Allin's short and painful career. Because he's doing stuff, getting thrown into barricade stomach first sort of thing, getting thrown down cement stairs. And somebody needs to get to him and go, no, stop it. Stop it. You don't need to do that. You don't need to kill yourself. Yeah, it's cool now, but take a look watch Mick Foley walk. So, and really good matches, really good show, very entertaining. AEW has just been really entertaining. It's kind of like with Punk coming in, they kicked it into high gear. I'm really excited about it. And they're selling out venues here, right and left. Their ratings are up. They're only about 600,000 viewers behind WWE Raw at this point. And I think that both TNT and the owner, Tony Khan, are smart enough not to go on Monday nights. You don't go on Monday night, because just let Vince deal with football on his own. Let him just treat them as if they're some other entity. You're going to build your own place on Wednesdays. So there's that. Comic wise, boy, I got a box coming later this week. I'm not happy about the fact that boxes are late, but it's because that the distributor thing is just a mess right now. I'm hearing not just from DCB Service, but other shops, that Diamond is not getting stuff to them on time. Again, there's worries about, with Diamond losing DC and Marvel, are they going to have enough money to pay? Because, boy, they owe a lot of money to a lot of people, and shops owe a lot of money to Diamond. But I'm just going to go down the what's in my next box, because it's one of those weeks where I go, once I get this box, I don't want to do anything till I just sit for a day or two. So in my next box that is preparing to ship, I've got the new Alter Ego, where Roy Thomas takes apart the book about Stan Lee.
What number is that?
171.
I did not. I was stupid. Did not get it. I got to get that. I'll be running somewhere to pick it up tomorrow.
Captain America Rick Remender Omnibus. That's the one where Captain America goes back to Dimension Z. Empowered Omnibus number 3. Fantastic Four Omnibus number 4, which is the last of the Kirby run. Kabuki Omnibus number 4. And What If Marvel Original Series Omnibus hardcover.
Oh, I passed on that, but I may have to go look for it.
Do I have to work? And comic-wise, I am actually reading one of my omnibuses. You just slap it out on the thing there, and
him while he whips out. It's not your giant-sized man thing again, is it?
No, it's my Garth Ennis Punisher Volume 1, which has the Welcome Back Frank story, which is probably my favorite Punisher story ever, which is him against the Nucci mob, where it's basically Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon, their first run on Punisher, and he Judge Dreads it, where Punisher by himself is a boring character. It's who you surround him with that makes it interesting. The Nucci mob is really fascinating. The people who live in his apartment building, Spacker Dave, Mr. Bumble, and what's her name, the mouse, his neighbors. And then it goes into the Punisher series where Wolverine's in it, and boy, does he not like Wolverine at all.
I remember that one. I read that as issues.
Where he has a steamroller run over Wolverine. That ought to keep you down for a while, shrimp. But the thing about it is, yes, it has the bizarre, over-the-top humor with the violence, but it also delves into some really serious stuff and gets into why Frank Castle will never stop being the Punisher. And it's just so well done and so good.
And the best part about it, it's canon, because remember when Stark talked about it in one of the Secret War files or whatever? Occasionally, Frank goes off the grid and we hear reports of deaths in hundreds, if not thousands, but that could never happen. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think they said the last part, but I mean, it happened, but did it? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah,
so that's what I've been reading. That's what I've been geeking on. Football season begins. I talked about how the Thursday night, the opening game was fun. I'm having to work a lot because I want to get my roof fixed and I want to start putting some money away for this winter. And the group home's offering me tons of hours. And if it's anything like today, where I show up, I get everybody dressed and in the wheelchairs, and then they just want to be kind of left alone. And one of the clients, he loves when I work on a Sunday because he did not know that the Flintstones, the Jetsons, the Brady Bunch, and Gilligan's Island were on. Because I put it on MeTV for him because I know he likes old stuff. It's like when I show up and I get him dressed and he has breakfast, he says, now, when do those old shows start? You're the only one who lets me watch those old shows. Well, believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about every comic shop in the Twin Cities and up in Duluth.
Well, not everyone. There's
for
a
an
few
hour
I
and a
didn't
half.
I think we got everybody covered. If I'm missing somebody, you know what to do. Let us know.
As we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Sorry. No dad joke this week.
Oh, thank God.
You're entirely welcome. But I do feel like dancing. Sort of. I'm still in a little bit of pain. Hit my music.